What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Real Me In, a movie podcast where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and, well, anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey guys, listen, if you stumbled across the internet and you have nowhere to go, you have no film fan community to join, and you accidentally stumbled across our house, you open up the door and you're like, what's going on here? What's this Real Me In party going on? And you came in here, you don't know what's going on, well, come join the party, come join the fun, because that's what this podcast is all about, is joining you guys together, coming together so we can just talk about our favorite thing in the world, movies. And you know what, even if you're not a movie fan, maybe we can convince you to be one. Joel's pretty persuasive. I'm even more persuasive, and so I think we can do it. But if you are new to the show, welcome once again. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. What we typically do is we'll go over some movie news and some movie trailers that drop throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys, and then we'll have reviews of certain movies that come out on the weekend, whether it be, a blockbuster, a couple blockbusters, a couple indie films, a mix of the two. It's a lot of fun, and of course, the box office results to accompany it. This is episode 227, and there are going to be no blockbusters this week. We're going to be getting down and nitty-gritty into the indie world, and we're going to be doing You Were Never Really Here, and Joel will have his review of Lean on Pete. So it should be a lot of fun. And before I introduce the co-host over there, please like, share, spread this around and let people know this is where you go for your movie talk, son. This is where you go, and just pressure people. You don't have to torture them or anything. Just be like, hey, listen, just check this out. Or, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. And then just walk away. And they're going to be like, oh, man, maybe I should check this out. All right, so please do that before, you listen to this and let people know. And speaking of the co-host over there, Joseph, how are we doing this week?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been a good week. I'm finishing up my Marvel revisit in preparation for the small indie coming out next weekend. And, I secured my tickets. I'm seeing it at 9 p.m. on Thursday night because that was the earliest time that I actually had a good seat. And otherwise, just been kind of chilling. Nothing real big has happened to me this week, but how's your week been?
Well, first of all, Joel is dishing out some chump change. All right, so here's the plan I got for the weekend. My girlfriend and I are going to see it on Friday night. We're going to see it on Sunday morning. We've already got them booked. I bought them a month ago because I'm a fanboy and I went broke that weekend. So you know what? Joel's doing some childish games over there. Like, if you're gonna be a true fan, you need to see like 500 times on the same weekend. That's just how you do it. But no,
if I had time to do that, I might have time to see it again like on Saturday, but I don't know if I will.
You will, because Joel's gonna like it so much. He's gonna be like, man, I really love that. I don't want Chase to know, but I really love it, and I'm gonna go see it again. My week was pretty chill. I didn't really watch anything new.
I have been sort of slowly making my way through Lost in Space, which is on Netflix. That was
actually a pretty good Netflix series.
Yeah, it is really good, and it's, I think, their highest price that they've paid for something, but I don't know. Obviously, they don't really report their budgets. But it's honestly on the level of any given high profile blockbuster in terms of the production value. I think most of them or all of them or something are directed by Neil Marshall, who did The Descent and stuff, and really good acting. Like, the performances in this show are terrific. The writing is terrific. It has this I've only seen the first 2 episodes, so just take that into consideration. There's 10 of them on the first season. I'm going to slowly make my way through the week through that. But the writing is very clever because it doesn't over-explain everything to you. It's sort of like the best sci-fi, I think, which basically drops you into this already existing world. So they just have to explain some stuff to themselves, but they kind of already know how it works. So we're kind of dropped into it, not knowing much about how this works, and I think that's the best thing to do. And I that's the best recommendation I can make, at least based on the first 2. I don't know how it goes from there, but I'll be looking forward to seeing that because I watched the old series off and on when it was on TV Land, and I obviously saw the movie that came out in the 90s in theaters, the one where both Gary Oldman and Joey from Friends were part of the cast. Just just amazing. But yeah, I have been liking that. That's probably the most significant thing for me this week.
Well,
So.
I mean, it's not just you. Like, one of my coworkers actually recommended it as well because he's really big into sci-fi, and that's all we talk about is, like, we'll talk about Black Mirror and, like, other sci-fi stuff we watch, but I haven't talked to him in a while, and he just stopped me. He was like, Lost in Space is pretty good. So you know what? I'll crank it up to the top of my list, and I'll watch it eventually. But I had the sad reality of watching one of the screeners that Jill and I will be covering for DallasMoviescreens.com. The official podcast is this one. And I watched Kings with Halle Berry and Daniel Craig, and my God, that's a train wreck. Now, there's no embargo on it, so I can tell you how I feel. But if you want to know my in-depth stuff, I'm going to be recording my review tomorrow. But woof, was that rough.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was...
I haven't watched it yet. I plan to.
It's some of the worst editing I've seen all year so far, and
wow.
I can't believe that. Like, first of all, it's an hour and a half, so the fact that it feels long and it feels jarring and short at the same time is kind of a miracle, to be honest with you. But it's not good.
Man. So
yeah, it's just, it is what it is. You take a gamble on it, and of course, I'm watching my usual shows. Each week, also coming to the sad reality of knowing that next Sunday, will be the last ever episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead, and it makes my heart really sad because I like that show quite a bit. Other than that, I've been really busy this week. I haven't really watched anything on Netflix or Hulu or HBO. So, and I have a screening tomorrow. It's a little small film from Sony Pictures Classics. It actually looks pretty good. I've been hearing great things. It's The Rider.
I'm enormously excited for that. I'm seeing that on Friday.
Perfect. Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'm looking forward to it. It should be better out of the two this coming week with that and Kings. So by default, it should be better. Literally, if it's just a guy just riding on a horse for like an hour and a half,
and
into the sunset.
he plays a version of himself, and a lot of his family is in the movie as versions of themselves. That one I'm super excited for because Godfrey Cheshire over at RogerEbert.com, I think it was Godfrey Cheshire, who is pretty. I mean, he has pretty high standards for stuff. I notice, at least through that site, called it the best American movie he's seen in the last 2 years.
Oh wow!
So I know. He said, I mean, if you look in the trailer, I think that first critic quote is from him, and it's like, it's pretty high praise. It's one of those phrases that, people obviously side-eye critics for using, but when certain critics use it, because they don't use it a lot, it makes it more exciting. And he's one of those. He doesn't hand out 4 stars very often. And that's one that he did. So, I'm super excited for that.
Well, okay then. The Rider it is. I can't wait for that. And also today is a really exciting premiere day for the season 2 of Westworld. And buying that HBO account subscription was the best thing I've ever made, best idea I've ever had. Because I love Westworld and Silicon Valley. Of course, my girlfriend and I are watching Game of Thrones and preparing for the last season next year. So, Westworld season 2. That's all I had to say, because you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. I am on the love side, and so I can't wait for the premiere tonight. But that will do it for, I guess, our weekly watchings from Joel and I. Joel, what's happening in that movie news world? Because there's not really much stuff that happened, but there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, this week the Cannes lineup was announced. We had briefly talked about how it kind of got a hint of it before that, but with Solo coming to the as a out of competition screening, but the whole lineup kind of dropped this week, and it's pretty impressive. The competition slate has a lot of basically modern masters coming back, which isn't super surprising just because it's Cannes, but I think it's just the number of them is insane. So you have Jean-Luc Godard returning with Le Livre d'Images. I haven't heard anything about that, but it's Godard, so it's obviously going to be of great interest to a lot of people. Hirokazu Korieda's back. He's directed a movie a year for the past 10 years or something. with one called Shoplifters, and I liked his film last year called After the Storm, which was very good, and so I'm looking forward to that. Lee Chang-dong has a movie that's coming back called Burning that I've heard is an all-timer. I've heard it's literally like people are saying it could be remembered as one of the best movies of all time, which doesn't happen very often. I know that people get like this idea from critics that they either overstate badness or overstate goodness, but stuff like this does not get said a lot, and so that's pretty exciting. A couple of really high-profile directors from America, or I guess English-speaking directors. I don't know if they're both American, but Spike Lee's back with BlacKkKlansman. This is his first time since Jungle Fever, I think. So that's pretty cool. Under the Silver Lake from David Robert Mitchell, which looks like Inherent Vice 2. Can't wait to see that. Jafar Panahi is a filmmaker who lives in Iran and has been banned from filmmaking for the last 20 years, but he keeps making movies in his house and around it. And he also he's like under house arrest for a while. I think that he's now got one of those little things around your ankle or whatever where he can't leave his house or his car. But he keeps making movies, and he's got a new one called Three Faces. I don't know what it's about, but that's always going to be very interesting. I need to see more of his movies. I think I've only seen one of them, but that's interesting. You have Jia Zhangke, who is a director that's famous for a lot of movies with very, very long tracking shots or just still takes. And, alongside the Lee Chang-dong movie, Ash's Purest White is being called like all-time great. So that's pretty interesting. And then there was a movie a few years ago called Ida. I don't know if you saw it, Chase, but it was a foreign film. You've heard of it, right?
Oh.
IDA.
Oh, yeah. That one.
It was nominated. Yeah. It was nominated for the Oscar, and I think for the cinematography Oscar out of nowhere a few years ago is the foreign film. Kind of Bergman-esque. It's about this nun who finds out that she has a Jewish heritage, and so she goes on a road trip to explore that and kind of find out what life is like outside of a convent. And that director, Pavel Pawlikowski, has a new movie called Cold War that I've been hearing great things about. And so that's a pretty big one. And that's kind of there's Matteo Garrone, who made that movie Gomorrah several years ago, has a movie called Dogman. It's a great name. Let's see. Oscar Farhadi, one of the greatest filmmakers working right now, made The Salesman last year that won the Oscar. Made About Ellie back in 2009, and it finally reached the States in 2015. Great movie, was in my top 5 of that year. Separation is my favorite film so far this decade, and he's got a new film called Everybody Knows that I cannot wait for. I think it's the one with Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz or Salma Hayek, one of the two, maybe both. That one's going to be great. There was this movie a few years ago that I liked called The Measure of a Man, directed by a guy named Stefan Britze, and he's got a new film called At War that I can't wait for. I'm hoping that comes out this year because it sounds amazing. So it's just a really great collection of film buff names almost. A lot of these, because once you enter the un certain regard category, you've got filmmakers like Sergei Lozitsna, who has a new film called Donbass. That's the opening night. That's the opening film of that selection. You've got, let's see, obviously out of competition, you have Solo, you have Lars von Trier's new movie, The House That Jack Built, B. Gahn's new Long Day's Journey into Night, and then you have the midnight screenings, and one of them is the Fahrenheit 451 that Michael B. Jordan's in from Rami Barani, which I can't wait to watch that. And then the closing film is going to be The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. We'll see if that actually happens, considering the recent stuff that's gone on with Gilliam. But I'm certainly excited to see if that actually happens. Looking through, we've got some interesting titles in the director's fortnight. Mandy, the weird, crazy one with Nick Cage, where he apparently partakes in a chainsaw duel, which is pretty awesome. That one's coming to the director's fortnight, which also includes Deborah Granick's first narrative feature since Winter's Bone, Leave No Trace, which I've heard amazing things about. Can't wait to see that. That one also is another film that will kind of introduce a new name, much like she did, kind of usher Jennifer Lawrence into the mainstream because of the fact that she got an Oscar nomination. She's doing the same for the actress in this movie. I can't remember her name, but her. And then you have Gaspar Noé. He's got a new movie called Climax. I have to wonder what that's about, considering he previously made movies about sex. And yeah, it's just a really interesting selection of movies. You got Paul Dano's directorial debut. I think it's his debut. Wildlife is going to be the opening night film of the Critics Week selections. That's pretty cool. And yeah, I think that this is going to be very interesting to follow. It's going to put a lot of movies on the map. I mean, obviously, you have Sundance and South by in the early parts of the year, but those are more I guess you could say that those are more for films that kind of become high-profile wide releases, because it seems to be that that's the case most of the time, or what turn out to be A24 titles. And then you have Cannes, which kind of puts a lot of the smaller indie, world cinema picks on the roster for everybody, kind of put on the radar for everybody, kind of put them at the forefront, and I just like to see that happening. Because it really puts a lot of movies on my most anticipated for the rest of the year list. Once I find out, what's good, what's bad, stuff, falls off, stuff's added. So really exciting slate here. Chase, any thoughts? I know that I don't know how aware of a lot of the names that I mentioned. How aware you are?
Because I only like Michael Bay movies. But if I had to put in my 2 cents. Excited for this Spike Lee one. Wasn't really a big fan of his Chirac, but I'm hoping he can bounce back. Under the Silver Lake, of course, because we saw that trailer. And then I'm actually really curious about Everybody Knows, because I guess there's going to be a trend this year where married couples work together. I don't think Javier and Cruz have worked together since they've been married, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, I don't think so, because Vicky Cristina Barcelona, wasn't that how kind of they met or whatever?
Yeah, I think that's how they met. So yeah, this is their post-marriage movie, and I want to see their chemistry on screen, and that one sounds really good. So yeah, I have really nothing more to add. Like you said, I'll just follow it like you will, just to kind of see which movies are getting what type of buzz, and we'll go from there and see if we can get to see them.
I also have a feeling that some of these are going to show up at next year's diff, because it seems like a lot of the time, a lot of the stuff like in the Un Certain Regard particularly shows up as pretty major premieres at the next year. At the next year's diff, it just so happens that happens sometimes. So, or the World Cinema Competition or whatever. So hoping that happens with this one, because there's obviously a lot of these that I don't really know about, but I'd be up for seeing them. I want to go to this film festival at some point. So yeah, it's a pretty great lineup. So moving on from there, we had some actual news break this week. So there's, we just reported about an exclusive deal that Guillermo del Toro has with, was it Fox Searchlight?
Yes.
And yeah, and now we learn that on the animation side of things, we have a new exclusive deal that he has made with DreamWorks Animation to direct, write, and produce a lot of family films for the studio. And basically, this is not surprising. I mean, he's produced, movies in the past, or executive produced them. Rise of the Guardians, Puss in Boots, Kung Fu Panda 3. I think The Book of Life was one. that he was pretty directly involved in. He's involved in that Netflix series Troll Hunters that I've heard is actually pretty terrific. I haven't watched it, but it's on the family bar of that one. And he was a creative consultant for stuff like Kung Fu Panda 2 and Megamind. So he's got this storied history with animation, and he loves animation. So because he feels like that's one of the perfect mediums to kind of, he even said it, to me it's the perfect medium to bring to life any and all ideas, no matter how outlandish or wild, which is true. And he's got this storied history with animation, and this is just really interesting news to find out. I'm really happy that after The Shape of Water won him Best Director in Picture, that he's taking up the mantle here, that he's kind of picking up a lot of projects. He's a really hard-working guy. He's one of the hardest working creative people in the Hollywood in the film industry right now, and I love seeing this happen because it just really goes to show that there's somebody out there who's going to bring us a lot of weird stuff, especially through DreamWorks. And they, their golden age was, from like 2005 to 2015 roughly. And they made a lot of great movies in that period of time. And I'm excited to see him, bring even more to that. So we shall see, what his first movie to direct in the animation field is going to be. That's going to be exciting. So, are you as excited about this as I am?
Joel, I'll say the same thing I said the other week. Hey, Del Toro, can you make this movie for us? Called, we'll produce The Shape of Water that you got going on. Cool. We'll take a gamble on it and we'll see how it goes. Oh wow, you won Best Director and Best Picture. Well, you know what, Del Toro, we're gonna go ahead and just sign with a bunch of deals over here. You got a lot of calls on your desk. DreamWorks is calling. Of course, he's gonna sign deals. And you know what? This even makes more sense because Troll Hunters is DreamWorks Television. Like, he already works for them. So, I mean, obviously they like what he's done in the past, being a consultant and a story, person for the Kung Fu Panda films and Megamind. He's currently an EP and the, co-creator of Troll Hunters. That's on Netflix. That's a DreamWorks thing. So he's already working with them. I think they're just so enamored by what he's done with that show that they're just like, you know what? Let's go ahead and nab this guy right now because he's an Oscar winner. Makes total sense business-wise. It makes total sense creative-wise since he's been in that field. So I can't wait to see what he does in the Fox Searchlight kind of live-action department and what he does in the animation department. This is all nothing but great news. And, Del Toro is the type of person that's always balanced like 100,000 projects at once. So this is nothing to him. This is like, oh, this is a breeze. Yeah. I can do 2 studio deals at once.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he is a big teddy bear and he doesn't seem to sleep. So it's pretty great. And I just can't wait to see, what if he decides, he's just going to kind of go back and forth, alternate live action project, animation project. It would be pretty exciting to see that happen. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I suspect that there's going to be something like that, he's going to alternate at least every couple of animated movies with the live action one, and I really hope, again, that this helps him get Hellboy 3 made, because that would be awesome. All right, so kind of moving on from there to another director taking on an interesting project, because you don't expect this director to be involved in this project, but Steven Spielberg made Ready Player One with Warner Brothers, and apparently it went over like gangbusters in terms of relationships, because they have now kind of approached him to direct Black Hawk, which is a World War II themed DC Comics franchise or material. So okay. First appearing in DC Comics in 1941, the Blackhawks are a small team of World War II era ace pilots of diverse nationalities who fight tyranny. This is pretty cool because what we have is you know, he's not technically doing, a superhero project, although there's going to be a superhero element just because it's DC. But it's going to be something that's a little more grounded, than something like Justice League. Um, and I haven't read any of the comics with the Blackhawks, but I feel like it's going to be a little more grounded than that, and I'm excited to see how this happens. And it's obviously going to be more action adventure than war, but Spielberg is one of the greats of all time, and I can't wait to see him take on a project like this. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's one of those things to where it makes sense. I mean, like you say, he just did Ready Player One for Warner Brothers. They liked him so much, they're like, hey, would you like to do this Blackhawk movie? Now, what people have to understand is that, Spielberg made those comments a couple years back saying that, superhero films will go out like the way of the Western and just kind of die off as a genre. And that made a lot of people mad. And it's like, oh, well, he's too snooty. He's not going to ever make one. And it's like, I think this is the only type of character he would try to make, within the superhero world. Because like you say, it's grounded. It's not, really mystical or anything. It's more of the, kind of grounded era of Detective Comics back in the day when they did Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Black Hawk, where, yes, some of them had mystical powers, but they were drawn and they were executed in a way where it felt real and it felt like these were tangible characters, and they went through these problems, and they came out on top and stuff, and they didn't have like invincibility or whatever. It's like you could feel kind of the reality there. And so I think if there was only one for him to do, it would be this, because he's done war films before with Saving Private Ryan, or, even War Horse, kind of capturing that era, or even Lincoln. Like, the guy knows how to, like, capture war-like eras. So, hey, listen, if this is, the one that he's going to do, this makes total sense because of his film history of making war films. And you know what? I think that maybe he had an idea for it. Maybe he read Black Hawk comics when he was a kid, and after working with Warner Brothers, he felt motivated to work with them again, and maybe he had an idea for Black Hawk, and DC was just like, oh, well, that's interesting, that comic debuted in the 40s, like, I don't think we're going to go that route. And then maybe he sat them down, pitched them something, and maybe they liked it. So we don't know the specifics, but him doing this type of movie within the DC umbrella, it's kind of fascinating, and I'm willing to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat thing, and I'm excited to see how it all kind of how it all happens. I lost the thread of my thought there briefly. So our last bit of news is going to be another one about DC, because obviously there's going to be a Harley Quinn spin-off from Suicide Squad starring Margot Robbie, and it's called Birds of Prey. It looks to have a screenwriter already in Christina Hodson, who we talked about last week, is going to be writing the screenplay for Batgirl. This is the other thing that she had coming for DC, and so we have a director, and her name is Kathy Yan. Now she is actually has directed a movie that's showing at Dallas International Film Festival that Chase is covering, called Dead Pigs, and so that'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping to catch it somehow as well. We'll see, but she has been kind of picked to direct this, which is pretty neat because this is obviously the first, one of the first, I think, women of color to direct a superhero movie. So that's pretty cool. The question of whether we need this movie is a different one. I don't know if we do, but if we have to have this, then I would rather have a woman behind it, both behind the pen and behind the camera. So pretty exciting stuff. I mean, Robbie's got a lot of projects in the pipeline right now, and so does DC with stuff like Aquaman and Shazam, Wonder Woman 2. So we don't know when this is happening. It's probably going to be in the new decade, not in this one. Obviously, we only have a year and a half. So, yeah, I'm I'm glad that they got this director for this. I'm excited to see Dead Pigs. Do we need this movie though? That's another question. Chase, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Do we need it? No. But if we are going to have it, then this is the kind of route to go. An unknown filmmaker who I'm assuming someone has either seen Dead Pigs or seen her previous work to know, hey, she has a visual eye for, this type of material. Maybe we can hand it off to her. And actually, Dead Pigs is it's a twofer because I'll get to see how Kathy Yon directs a movie because I've never seen any of her work, and it stars Zazie Beetz, so I'll get to see her in something before Deadpool 2 because I've actually never seen her in a movie ever. So the first one I'll get to see her in is this one.
Yeah, it's weird. Like with Zazie Beetz, people are talking about her, and I have no idea who that is. So I don't think I've ever seen a picture. I really don't know.
In the Deadpool 2 trailer, she's the one that plays Domino.
Oh, okay. So her, okay.
Yeah.
I think I vaguely recognize her from something else, but I could not tell you what that is. So it's pretty interesting. You know, they're obviously taking a gamble with a lot of these movies, but this will be something. Let's just say I don't know if we need it, but it'll be interesting. So that's basically it, guys. This is kind of a weak news week, to be completely honest. We kind of barreled through it just now. What was that, like 30 minutes, 20 minutes?
That's because most studios are like exiting out of the path that is the Avengers, and they know that if they throw anything out there, it's going to get buried within 5 days.
Yep, pretty much that is the case. I mean, tomorrow night you got the premiere, and then it's going to be Avengers week in terms of all of the news stories. So, I can't wait, man. Can't wait. All right, so we got some trailers that dropped this week too. The first one is actually also playing at Diff. Chase, tell us what it is.
So we got Blind Spotting, and this is a trailer that I knew that dropped, and I also didn't connect it in my head that it was playing at Diff until 5 days later, but that's how my brain works. And so Blind Spotting is an interesting trailer because it starts out very comedic, and then it kind of slowly bleeds into a drama, and so it's more of like a dramedy. And what is this movie about? So get this. So we have a couple friends who are actually like lifelong friends. They co-wrote this movie and they star in it, and it kind of deals with race and different classes in society, and it's set in an environment where police brutality runs rampant and stuff. And it's a very interestingly cut trailer because it starts out with the two main characters in a car with another gentleman. They're talking about gun sizes and all that stuff, and it plays off like a funny movie, and you're like, okay, this looks entertaining. And then there is a certain plot point that happens in the trailer where the police brutality happens, and one of the characters sees it, and then it starts to unravel into this very modern type of story that deals with a lot of stuff that we're going on with right now. And I thought the way it was cut was really well done. I actually liked the blend of the comedy and drama because they're actually they're labeling this movie as partly comedy. So I think what these two guys did when they wrote this movie is that they wanted to make it an entertaining and lively movie with the comedy beats, but also have this poignant, relevant message they want to kind of strike through the narrative. And I actually thought it worked quite well. And it could have just been the cut of the trailer, and maybe the movie's awful, but from the way the trailer was represented and the way it was cut, I really like this. And it looks like just an interesting kind of take on, these kind of modern issues that we're having now. And, now that I've seen the trailer, now I want to rearrange my schedule so I can actually see this movie. So Joel, I'll throw it over to you. Now that we know this is playing at Diff, is this something that you want to kind of push to the front now to see first?
Yeah, I mean it's my favorite trailer of the week. I'll just say that that we're talking about. And it's just funny that I tend to alphabetize the trailers during each of the shows, so it just so happened that the first one is my favorite. But yeah, it looks really good. I like the blend of comedy and this very heightened drama. of race relations. Obviously, this is something that just this week there was that thing at the Starbucks that caused them to close all of their stores for a day for racial bias training, which is apparently something that people need in 2018. Anyway, and so yeah, I mean, this really does get to the heart of the current times, and it looks really interesting. Daveed Diggs looks really good here. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. I'm definitely wanting to see this at Diff. I don't know if it's playing more than once though, and so that might it's difficult. This particular Diff is shorter than the usual one. You think that if they had a longer one, it might work out better to schedule it more than once, but yeah, I definitely want to see this at Diff. What was a surprisingly fun trailer? The Equalizer 2. That one also dropped this week, and this one is a sequel, of course, to the 2014 movie that I really liked. I thought was kind of this very adult Home Alone riff with Denzel Washington as this kind of mercenary type who, exacts revenge in very violent ways in a Home Depot, I think it was, or a Home Depot-like store, and it was just a lot of fun. And this one finds the Melissa Leo character killed. That's not a spoiler. That's literally in the trailer. That's what the movie's about. And he is going to go out and avenge her death now. So, because she's a mentor to him and his handler and all that. So I thought that this movie looks really fun, and it looks like Denzel is killing it, and I'm excited to see it. Were you a fan of the first one?
I actually never saw the first one. And
you did?
What's really great about this trailer is that now I want to. And I'm assuming, since Joel loves to do this to me, this is going to be one of our main topics for that week. So I'm going to have to watch the first one because I hate being out of the loop on stories. It bugs me to no end. That's my OCD, ladies and gentlemen. But no, I actually like this trailer. It was energetic. I loved all the kills that Denzel participated in. It was shot well, it was cut well, and I was actually kind of astonished. I was like, I still can't believe I never got around to the first one, but I love me some Antoine Fuqua, and he's one of these directors that he just continues to make great movies, and no one really ever talks about him. And the movie that won me over, because I've always been a fan of him, but the one movie that won me over, which is a very underrated boxing movie, by the way, and no one ever talks about it, is Southpaw. When I heard that he actually trained with Jake to build up an actual boxer's physique and really got into that part of the directing, I was like, okay, this guy is really hands-on. He really cares about what he's doing. He's not just one of these hired directors that just does whatever a studio says and just kind of goes for it. I'm sure he is cordial with the studios, but it seems like this is a guy that's passionate about his work, whether he's doing a boxing movie or whether he's doing a revenge flick like this one. This looks like a better version of Death Wish than Death Wish ever could. And I only rag on the movie because we see this story over and over again. But it's a matter of style and who you have in the lead. Denzel will always be one of my favorite actors to watch, no matter what he's in. I always just love that man's presence, whether he's in something as somber as Fences and we get to see a more dramatic punch to his performance, or whether we see an action-heavy Denzel like in this one. It doesn't matter. I will always see him in anything. And this trailer sold me over to watch the first one. I think it looks stylish and a lot of fun.
Yeah, Southpaw was okay. I'm not as big on that one as a lot of other people seem to be, but I kind of want to see the alternate version that he would have made with Eminem, because that's who he originally wanted to play that role. But and in fact, Eminem then produced the soundtrack, and it's a great soundtrack. So, but you know what I love, and I don't know if you ever saw it, was Brooklyn's Finest.
I don't think I saw that one.
Okay, that one's got a great cast. Richard Gere, Wesley Snipes. That was in the midst of him coming back from jail and stuff. So he was kind of still a pariah. It wasn't very common to see him in a movie, but he was great. Don Cheadle. So it's a terrific movie. He also obviously did Training Day. we won't speak of Olympus Has Fallen, but I don't like that movie. But The Equalizer is a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see him follow it up. So yeah, it's a pretty good trailer. So our next one is really weird, Chase. What is it?
It is definitely weird because it comes out of nowhere and it stars Jodie Foster and Jeff. That's a big pile of dino shit. Goldblum. What is this? Definitely a surprise trailer for the week. It's Hotel Artemis, and it pretty much has a John Wick feel, and I'm totally down for that. But here's the kind of like plot synopsis. Set in a riot-torn future Los Angeles, Hotel Artemis follows a nurse who runs a secret members-only emergency room for criminals. And of course, in the trailer, they have a bunch of rules, like you can't have your guns, and she keeps it very professional. And like that hotel is literally to patch up criminals and no questions asked. Just come in, she'll fix you up, and then you're on your way. And of course, something happens in the trailer, and then conflict ensues. But an interesting cast for sure. Like I said, Jodie Foster plays the nurse. Sure. Jeff Goldblum's in it. Sterling K. Brown, one of my favorite people. Charlie Day is in this. Zachary Quinto, Brian Tyree Henry, Sophia Boutella, Dave Bautista. Like, what is happening? But as far as the actual trailer looks,
Jenny Slate, we get she's not in the cast list, but we get a glimpse at her.
That's right.
In the
I forgot
movie.
she was in this. Yeah, because I was shocked when I saw her and Charlie Day. I was like, "What kind of cast is this?" But anyways, I gotta be honest with you. I like it. The writer and director is Drew Pearce, who wrote Iron Man 3. He also did. I got it right here. Sorry, guys. Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. He was involved in that screenplay, so I like this guy's work. I mean, I think he's a solid filmmaker, and he's got some really great ones on the horizon. He's doing Sherlock Holmes 3, and of course, he's working on Hotel Artemis. And so, watching this trailer, I liked it, man. Like, I don't care if he was, kind of ripping off the flavor and kind of atmosphere of John Wick. I think it works. This is actually something you would see in John Wick, and I think that type of style and type of vision works for this type of story. I think it looks like a lot of fun. It looks like it kind of reminds me of like the story of like a Dread or something that happens like all inside of a building for an hour and a half, and that's it. I think that's great. It's going to be compact storytelling, and it's going to really push Drew Pearce to the limit in terms of how are you going to construct this movie within this building for an hour and a half. I think it could be definitely something that just pure entertainment, nothing more. But I think the actual look of it looks cool. I like the rules. I like the atmosphere it kind of sets up. I don't know, man. I liked it quite a bit. I mean, Blind Spotting, I'm with you, is my favorite trailer of the week. But Hotel Artemis was pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah. Joel, take it away, man.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I like the neon flavor of the cinematography. Yeah. You brought up John Wick, but it kind of reminded me a little more of The Raid. They're all
too, yeah.
Yeah, they're all
so
stuck
like a mixture of the two.
yeah, sort of like a mixture of the two, and they're all stuck in a place. And the rule that they can't, there's no killing of the other patients,
which is not. It's like someone's going to do something.
Right, right. I mean, there's going to be probably a pretty high death rate here, but yeah, it looks really cool. The cinematography is just crazy. The cast is insane. They have all of those people together. I don't know. It's just it's a weird kind of wacky, wonderful trailer, and I liked it a lot. Yeah, and there's not a whole lot to say, but it's until we see it. It's one of those kinds of movies where the trailers obviously, can only do so much to sell this, but it looks really cool. So. Our last trailer is by far the worst trailer of the week, like by several thousand country miles. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom came out with its second trailer. Ugh. Just ugh. I just, the first trailer made it look generic, and I love this franchise, but this trailer is weird and mechanical. I don't connect to anything here. I think the situations, as this trailer shows them, are kind of stupid. The whole Jeff Goldblum cameo is going to be really strained and awkward, and And it's clear that it's just a one-scene cameo, by the way, because after 2 trailers, we haven't seen him anywhere else except for a hearing.
The courtroom.
The courtroom. That's the place that he shows up, and that's it. So this is going to be even, well, maybe not more awkward than Independence Day Resurgence, but it's going to be up there. But yeah, I don't like anything about this trailer. I think that it looks like a CGI overload to a degree that is like gross to look at. It doesn't look visually appealing at all. Like the cinematography just looks overprocessed, looks very very like somebody left it out in the sun to me. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I know, and I do not like this trailer. So are you with me, or do you think that this looks like a secret masterpiece?
No, I'm with you. It just, I have 3 words for you. I don't care. Like, it's one of those things where I like Jurassic World. It was fun while I watched it in the theater. I was like, oh, cool. I'm excited to see where they go with it. They're talking about this one, like, going more horror route, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, we're changing tones a little bit. I'm all for that. Take a risk, because this franchise will become stale unless you start throwing new stuff at it. I'm cool with that. However, the past 2 trailers have not won me over one bit. Yes, cinematographically, there's some shots that look, kind of gorgeous and has some really great shot composition. But other than that, it's like, I said this on the first trailer and I'll say it again. My one fear is that this whole 2-hour-plus movie is going to be nothing but them on the damn island trying to run away from the volcano. And it's like, they're not showing
And it looks like
else.
they've told us the entire movie.
Yeah, I mean, like, what other surprises do you have? And, like, the first trailer, they did that, the T-Rex shot, where, like, the dinosaur's in front of Chris Pratt. Oh, my God, what's going to happen? They could have just cut, and then, dinosaur comes in and chomps, and it's like, cool, that would have been nice for the theater. But, whatever. I don't know what Universal's doing with this movie in terms of upping it. Like, it just looks generic, and I hate to say that because, like, Jurassic World's fine. It's no masterpiece or anything, but, like, I wanted them to go in a different direction, and I think that it just might be because we don't see really many scenes off the island, and maybe I wanted it more off the island. I have no clue, but it's just these trailers are not winning me over at all.
Yeah, it just looks plastic and empty and just completely unappealing in every way. I'm at a loss for words because, again, I'm that guy who thinks that The Lost World is one of the best in the franchise. I like this franchise a lot, and I don't like saying it, but it just looks boring and plastic to me, and I can't get into it. So those are our trailers. It actually wasn't a huge week for either thing. Weirdly enough, I feel like maybe this coming week is probably going to give us a few more, but
Joel, they're going to throw so many trailers at us this week because they're going to be like, all right, this is what's going to be playing in front of Avengers, and you be dumb not to put your trailer in front of that movie.
I'm being sarcastic.
I was like, come on.
They're obviously going to release a bunch of new trailers. They just decided to wait until within the week rather than – because sometimes, it happens like a week and a half in advance. In this case, it was just the Jurassic World trailer and the Deadpool 2 trailer. There was another one, but just decided not to cover that. But yeah.
On a side note, I know for a fact since we got that poster, we'd be getting a Halloween teaser here pretty shortly.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's going to be great. All right, because I know that you had that at number 2 on your least anticipated, right? Something like that.
Least anticipated. I have I just don't want to see that.
Right. All right, guys. Those are our trailers. Our favorite is Blind Spotting.
Yes.
Well, Chase's favorite is Jurassic World, but
no.
we won't talk about that.
It's absolutely not. Thank you for lying to everyone.
You're welcome. And then let us know what yours is. And then what was your favorite piece of news, Chase?
Ooh, probably just because he's such a lovable human being, just Del Toro get more work.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I think it was mine last week too, or
exactly.
the week that he had.
It's like how can you hate the man and what he does?
Yeah, just him getting more work is really exciting. I just love that. He's a hard worker and it's paying off.
Well, just something I want to touch upon real fast because I forgot in the news section. I did see the first 2 episodes of Troll Hunters, and it was really an imaginative, just fun, wholesome family entertainment that also felt kind of epic. It reminded me of which is the same company, DreamWorks. It reminded me of almost kind of like How to Train Your Dragon a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I know that actually kind of has taken off too. The series that is spun off from How to Train Your Dragon. The
Yeah.
like dragons and Book of Dragons. There's been various spin-offs that I need to get into because they're actually pretty high sellers at my work. People buy parents buy them for their kids a lot. And I know they're pretty popular, so I should probably tune into that at some point. All right, guys, so that's our news and trailers segments. We're going to be transitioning into our reviews now. Our review together is going to be, well, it's just so funny because both of our movies, the one that we're talking about and the one that I'm talking about, are so oppressively bleak, and that it'll be great when next week we can get to something that's only oppressively bleak, potentially by Marvel standards, which means it's probably going to be pretty delightful overall. But yeah, so the first movie is You Were Never Really Here. This is the new film from director Lynn Ramsey, who previously brought us Ratcatcher. I still need to see that one. We have it at work. Morven Calar, which is a great movie with Samantha Morton that nobody has seen, and it's very hard to find, but everybody should try. And also, we need to talk about Kevin from a few years ago. That one kind of launched Ezra Miller into the stratosphere in terms of his performances, alongside Perks of Being a Wallflower within that same, 12-month stretch. And this one is kind of similar to those in that it uses a lot of color, but in terms of like subjectively speaking, it's very different. This one stars Joaquin Phoenix as an assassin for hire named Joe, who is can be very brutal, which is very appealing to the people who hire him. He rescues children from like situations like sex slavery or trafficking situations or what have you, from dangerous situations, basically. And he has been hired by a state senator because the state senator's daughter has been taken and given to one of these groups. And so he goes and does that, and the job goes horribly, horribly wrong in ways that obviously I won't reveal, but I will just say that it's rather jarring. There are two twists here that work. I'll just get into that later, but let's just say that there are two giant twists here that no one will ever see coming. And it's because the movie kind of puts you in this state of hypnosis. So I was excited for this ever since I heard about it like 2 years ago. It was made a while ago. It's been kind of floating around in distribution hell for about a year, and finally Amazon Studios took it on, and they gave it a pretty good release, I'd say. And so yeah, I was excited, and I got to say, man, this one's gonna be probably my number one of the year for a while. Because I love this movie. So, Chase, were you excited? And what are your initial thoughts?
Okay, so I've been a fan of the Phoenix for quite some time. I think he's one of the best actors walking today.
Chase,
what?
Leave. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, that was a brilliant pun. I will not let you take away my excitement. Anyways, Joaquin Phoenix has always been one of these guys that I don't care what he's in. He might be kind of a kook offset. He might be difficult to work with, that I've heard, but I don't care. Whatever I see from him in his films is what I've enjoyed. As the years have been kind of going on, I'm like, is he going to like just lose his drive? And, when I saw The Master, I was like, man, this is one of these like altering performances that like will define his career. And it's like, can you get any better than this? So when I heard about this movie, of course, I have seen We Need to Talk About Kevin. Absolutely love that one. And so I was excited to see her direct this one, Lynn Ramsey, and of course Joaquin Phoenix is in this. We saw the trailer, we covered it, and we really enjoyed it. I saw the movie, and I have sat on it for a few days. And I am proud to report to you that this is a triple P movie. What do I mean by that? It is pretty to look at. It is powerful in its subtlety. And I rarely say this, but I honestly believe this because I sat here, like, in the fetal position with one light on me, and I thought about this for 2 days straight. And to be completely honest with you, this is no joke. This is a perfect movie. Like, the way it is constructed, the way it is delivered, there is no extra fat on this movie. It is lean and to the bone, and I love it, dude. It is definitely going to be in my top 10 for a long time. I still need to refigure out my list, but it is going to be up there, like you said, until something kicks it out.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, and I don't have any negatives.
I don't either, because I'm not like, when you watch the movie, you're gonna be like, okay, you're overhyping this. I thought about every single frame, and I was like, what fell out of place? What did not work? Everything worked in this movie because what Lynn Ramsey did very well was she knew what story she was doing. It's a very basic story, but she knew how to utilize it and make it more effective in the way she shoots it, the way she directs her actors, and it felt so much more powerful than these type of revenge films that we've seen before. That's why it's elevated to the highest tier.
Yeah, I mean, and and I really want to start with Joaquin Phoenix here,
yes,
because this is a great performance. This is one of his best in a while. It's kind of hard to measure what his absolute best performances are because he's so good, but. Excuse me. Something caught in my throat.
What really captures his performance, if you were just unsure about everything, is literally that last scene. The last scene will describe everything about his character in a nutshell.
Yeah, pretty much. And I love how the camera stays on him in that beautiful face hair. Because he's got a scruffy beard here.
It's a very burly beard.
Yeah,
it's like,
and it's
lumberjack.
interesting. And it's interesting because it actually has a practical use. I don't want to reveal anything here, but there's a part where there's a gunshot wound, and you realize how much he's hiding in that beard.
Yes.
Through that scene, and it's just a great performance. It covers so much of his face, so he has to use a lot of his eyes, and this is a character who doesn't seem to have a soul, like in any specific way. His duty to his job is what's top for him. But yeah, it's just a crazy nuanced performance that not a lot of people would be like
able to give.
Yeah, I mean, he has this manner about him where he constantly seems to be considering what's in front of him in a certain way, and here he's got to do that. He's got to weigh options very quickly and with a lot of like casualness. Like there's a scene where he kind of eggs on the police to come to where he is, but when he leaves, he just kind of quietly walks away. It's very slowly too, where he could be caught at any time, but he doesn't seem to care. And I think that kind of captures his character pretty well. And yeah, it's just a great performance. It's one of those.
It's one of the best performances that is fueled by PTSD that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and that's actually what I wanted to talk about too. It really seems to understand that this character is, and it only gives us really flashes. That's what's brilliant about this screenplay.
Yeah.
I think that this screenplay was probably about 50 or 60 pages long. I can imagine that it wasn't a very long screenplay.
And to be quite frank with you, if you guys don't know anything about this movie, it's not a long movie at all. It's only an hour and a half. It's a very brisk movie.
Yeah, it's 85 minutes without credits.
Yeah.
Because the credits are very slow and they are about 5 minutes. So it's about 85 minutes. So the brilliant thing about the screenplay is that even though, and it's also attributed to Phoenix's performance, but I think that it's largely a writing thing. Even though we don't get a whole lot of insight about his past, we get just enough through the flashes that we see that even though he's kind of a cipher, he's not a cipher to us so much. He's a cipher to everybody else because he needs to be, because that's what his job entails. But we get enough of a sense of him that he isn't completely just a two-dimensionalization of this character. You know, um he's a three-dimensional character even though he's still a Cypher. It's a very like fine line to walk, but it's a great performance because of the fact that he is able to sell a character who must have a level of resolve and a level of secretiveness, but isn't completely like just an empty-faced, he's very bulky, but he's not a meathead. He's not a and he's you can tell by the flashes and glimpses that we get of his past that he once was human, but he's kind of lost that since then.
And that's why the title of the movie is so brilliant, because he's never really there mentally, and that's what
right.
title
and you could also read that as sort of like the sly joke about his job.
Exactly,
also,
it plays in both contexts.
Yeah, and it's also a visual thing. The title comes up as a character is mouthing it. I won't say why or how, and the film doesn't really reveal to us why. But I think that it does work on both of those levels. Where yes, he's an assassin for hire who has to remain secretive, can never let anybody know where he lives, for instance, as we find out. And so he really is never here. But also, he's just not there. Yeah. He's just absent in certain places that are, very troublesome, and he can't get any help for it because he's in a business where at any moment he could die.
Well, and also it does play into the kind of modern problems that we face here in the U.S. with the, kind of non-treatment for veterans and stuff with their PTSD.
Yes, and we do get, and by the way, that's another thing, is that he's clearly product of a damaged home.
Yes,
but he's also a military veteran, and now there's obviously the heart of his story is in whatever bridges the military with this job that he has now, which borders the line of illegal. Well, not borders it. It pretty much crosses it. But he's doing a service, though. He's doing an invaluable service. It's just via terrible means. And so we get a lot of a sense of this character through images, and that's the thing about Ramsey's filmmaking. And this is what it was with her last two, and I'm assuming probably with Ratcatcher as well, is that she basically like blows everything into fragments of the storytelling. So I've been comparing I've been making a very specific kind of comparison here that I think I'm going to stand by, and it's kind of gross, but whatever. This is basically like if you took something and I'm sorry for anybody who loves animals out there, but this is a common thing to compare. You get a lot of comparisons about how something strips elements of a story down to the skeleton, much like if you take an animal and strip the meat and sinew off the bones and you leave the skeleton, right? This one is like if you stripped all the meat and sinew off the bones and then threw away the bones. And that just leaves all the meat and everything, because this is a slice of life. That's what I realized, is that this job that he's paid to do here is just one of many. And so what we get is a slice of his life. And so I just found that really fascinating, because we don't get that a lot in this genre, but it's all completely stripped down, boiled down to the bare minimum essentials that we need for this story to work.
Like I said before, on the surface, it's a super simple story, but the way she directs it.
But yes, and that's actually another thing, is that we need to make sure that people know this. We're saying that it's simple. It is not simplistic.
No. It's way deeper. It's almost like what you said with his character. Like on the surface, he's a very troubled veteran, but there's so much more inside of him that we just don't know. But as the movie unfolds, we start to get a sense of that, and that's how the the story goes is that it starts out simplistic. Okay, he's an assassin for hire, but as it keeps going, we start to realize there's way more than what's on the surface.
Yeah, and that's where I want to bring back the hypnosis thing, because this is almost as if the movie kind of lures us into a feeling of comfort.
Yes.
Obviously broken up by violence and very, very graphic violence, but then it kind of snaps its fingers, well, twice, so it kind of dilutes the allegory. But there are 2 points where it basically snaps its fingers, and then we're woken up kind of to the fact that this is actually kind of a horrifying existence that he has, with those two twists. And you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Like it's insane. So, it's one of those things where it's like being hypnotized. It lures you into this sense of comfort, snaps its fingers, and then you're back to reality. And it does that with such like absurd ease that it's scary. It's kind of frightening how like the cumulative effect of this movie is powerful. I sat in the theater for like 5 minutes after it ended. That's how I know that the credits were 5 minutes. I sat through them staring at the screen, because it's just such a powerful ending. And we aren't getting into any of the plot details because I feel like we don't want to.
No, because that if there was one thing that shocked me, was that ending on like how it was kind of transcribed. I was like, oh wow, they went there, and I was a little shocked. But I mean, it was the perfect way to get an insight of how Joe operated.
Yeah, and it's just so fascinating. It's through this performance, and the editing is phenomenal. There's and the sound design, the score from Johnny Greenwood, back again after Phantom Thread, cinematography, all of it just comes together in a way that is hypnotic and just absolutely mesmerizing, and I loved every second. And I mean, it's just, getting into the specifics, I love how the score is so weird. It's just such a weird score. It doesn't intrude a lot, but it's there and it's present. And I love how dissonant it is in certain ways. You get a lot of kind of dissonant noise. Get a lot of that with cuts too. Like there's this cut. There's just very like specific cuts between sounds. That's very it's very telling. That Ramsey uses that a lot in Morven Calar, and it's just a really clever way to kind of jar you like out of the rhythm of the scene, is to cut to another scene by cutting between sounds, and I love that trick. In fact, the other movie that I'm reviewing does that too in some very interesting ways. I love that how that happens. So just a great film, and a great film in a way that I think is rarely ever made anymore. I mean, people have been comparing this to Taxi Driver. I think that's kind of shortchanging this one a little bit, but because they're very different thematically. But it is sort of like the climax of Taxi Driver, kind of blown up into a feature-length movie in a certain way. But they're very different thematically. It's an incredibly nihilistic movie, very, very, very. But there's no hope here, and that's why both of these movies this week are so oppressively bleak. But
that's why it makes it so devastating.
But it isn't. But it isn't in one note. There's also elements of tragedy here.
There's many notes for sure, but I think that's. I know it's it's a very downer of a movie, but even when that powerful like kind of raw ending like happens, and you realize these characters want to change, but there's a lot of demons inside of them. It's like, you think that there's going to be like a hopeful kind of future for these characters, but deep down you're like, someone's got to help this guy, and that's what's kind of sad, is that when you're sitting there and you're struck by like what you just saw, you want to like leap in there and help this guy, and like it just seems so hopeless because it's also, like I said, a commentary on how veterans are forgotten in this country, and that's how I felt. Joe felt in the movie. I was like, he felt hopeless, and I wanted to help him.
Yeah, it's that's exactly right, and I think that it's just through that careful writing, the which again boils the essence of this character down to the essentials, and through Phoenix's performance, which I think finds nuance, perhaps that didn't exist on the page, but didn't exist for a very specific reason. I think that he is able to find a lot in this character that perhaps he kind of came up with, because a lot of actors do that, and he uses that to his advantage, and it's just a great performance. It's a great vehicle for his performance because it's also just a terrific movie. It's also really exciting, like in very specific ways. It's a downer of a movie. It's got a very specific rhythm, but I felt energized after watching this movie. In terms of the fact that it's just got some great action beats, not traditional ones, and I'm not talking like it's John Wick or whatever, but it's playing with that genre in a way that is very exciting and unexpected.
Like,
and
for instance, without spoiling anything, to kind of touch upon that, there's a specific building that he raids, and the way she cuts between like surveillance cam to long shots down a hallway, it's like that was exciting kind of rhythmic editing that I was kind of surprised by. Yeah,
and it kind of makes me want to see her version of something like a John Wick.
Yes,
where it is a genuine action movie, where it isn't something like this that would be using human trafficking as the jumping off point, but a genuine just action revenge flick that is more mainstream. I would be interested to see her do that because I think that she would have the props to be able to handle that. But with this one, it's obviously a bit more art house. It's a bit more reflective. We get a lot of chances, in fact, to reflect on the nature of this character because, again, for a while, it's patient. It's very patient. It interrupts that patience with a lot of violence, such as that raid. But we get a lot of introspection in this narrative of the nature of this character through his actions, through him thinking, his kind of deliberate actions, the home life that he has with his mother, played by Judith Roberts, who is pretty good here. And the girl is good too. I think her name is I'm going to try this, Ekaterina Samsonov, who plays the girl Nina, and she's really good. It's just one of those special kind of movies that we don't see a lot, and I really want to see more of this kind of thing where it's exciting filmmaking and it's also reflective storytelling, and I love that. So
like that's the perfect representation of this movie, is that it's entertainment, but it's also high art. And when you can strike both of those inside of the film medium, then you have done one hell of a job.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you want to go out and, you feel like you want to see a righteous anger kind of revenge flick with that fulfills the potential of the revenge flick, this is a good one.
Yes.
But you're also going to get more than that in terms of the fact that it's so reflective and introspective. And so you'll get great filmmaking alongside of it in that way. It's not just that, but it is that too. And I love it. So I'm going to go my final grade is an A. I'm going to give Chase the chance to talk about this. My final grade is an A, and I'm not going with an A+ just because I've only seen this once. And I think that A+ has to be very deliberately chosen. I can't imagine not giving this an A+ on future viewings, and there will be future viewings before the end of the year, but it's going to be my number one for a while this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up just being number one, honestly, because this is the kind of movie that I love. This is the kind of filmmaking that excites me. And, this has sort of a Nicholas Winding Refn feel to it in some ways. It reminded me something of like, I guess Drive in a certain way, but it's a very different movie than that too. Something like Only God Forgives or Valhalla Rising in terms of the patience that it sometimes requires from the audience, but also the patience in the filmmaking. And so I love that style, and I'm giving it an A. So that's my grade. Y'all know how rare that is for me. I've only given one other A this year, and it was for a movie that I didn't review on the show. So that tells you I'm pretty specific with those, but it absolutely fits here. So strong A.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't need to say any more. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year so far. I think you hit on all the points, and I kind of, said my piece in between your points. So I really don't need to say anything more. I rarely give out the A pluses, but I think this one deserves it, and I am comfortable with saying that. I think I've only given one out last year, and that might have been like Logan. Maybe a couple others. I forgot. I know Joel keeps better track of my scores than I do. But
Well, I think thinking about it, I think that Logan was one of your only ones. It might have been your only one.
I think it was my only one because
yeah.
I just it's like with you. I don't like to just throw these out randomly.
Right,
but
right.
like when I first saw the movie, I told Joel to text me a one-word answer after he saw it, and he did "holy shit" without any spaces, so that counts as one word. So holy shit. And so when I saw it, I was like, all right, let's see what all the hype's about. I saw it, and I was like, wow, that was pretty damn great. But I wanted to sit on it for a couple of days and just see like how I would think about it later, and like how I would reevaluate it in my head. And I couldn't stop thinking about it because there was images in this movie that struck a chord with me. And it wasn't just the ending, because that ending was like some of the most raw, powerful uses of imagery and acting I've seen in quite some time to end on a film. But also, throughout, like Joel said, it's very exciting. It's very, character study driven. The cinematography is gorgeous. My favorite, scene in the movie is actually it involves a lake. I will just say that. Everything about that was just so beautiful, and it brought a tear to my eye. Knowing like what the character did and what he had to overcome to kind of move on with his life. Great stuff. It's just one of those movies, like you said, that we don't see that much of anymore. And Lynn Ramsey, I want to see her other work, and I try to like keep the tabloid stuff out of my head because I know about her whole thing with the Jane got a gun thing, but
Yeah.
excluding that, I'm hoping she's a decent human being, and so I'll still watch her stuff. But if she can continue to deliver stuff like this, and we need to talk about Kevin, she's definitely going to be one to look out for. And I would actually even, like, out of the ones I've seen, which is not that much, it's only been 2, but I like this one more than we need to talk about Kevin. And that's not a knock on that movie. It's just that this movie is just, it's top tier stuff. And I rarely say that about movies, but it is a perfect movie in my eyes. There was nothing wasted, and that ending will leave you stunned. It left Joel stunned, and it left me stunned for about 30 seconds, but I also had to go to the bathroom because I have Crohn's, so I had to go, but I still felt the powerful energy that it kind of struck on me, and I've been thinking about it days later. A+ for me. I have nothing more to say. If you want to see a good film, go see this, and you will expect Joel and I to talk about this and revisit it in December.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can't wait to revisit it. It's a great one. All right, guys. So A+ from Chase and an A for me. And really, again, the only reason it's not an A+ for me is because I've only seen it once, which it was very much about the experience of a first time viewing.
To be fair, because I understand where you're coming from, but I said the same thing when you and I saw Moonlight together. I turned to you and I said, "This is an A+ movie." And I don't know if it was because of what we saw, but after a one-time view, I was okay with giving that one like an A+.
Yeah. I mean, I gave that one an A+ from the get-go. It's one of those things where I think you have to feel it in your bones on the first viewing and then
Correct.
be comfortable with it immediately. For this one, it's more of one of those situations where it's very much let's just say it's a curious experience watching this movie. In
Yes.
many ways, in various ways that curious can be used. And this would be like for me, it was sort of the same way with Under the Skin. I gave Under the Skin an A, or would have if I was on this show at first, and it ended up being my number one that year because I watched it again, and I was able in the second viewing to kind of look at all the nuances rather than experiencing it on a whole level or on a macro level. I was able to hone in on the exact things that I loved, and sometimes it just happens that way. So I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being an A+ movie for me
Yeah.
when I see it again, and I will see this again. I'm gonna buy this on Blu-ray, and I can't wait. So yeah, it's a great one. Everybody should go see it. Just it is oppressively bleak, and you have been warned.
It's very brutal if you were not into hardcore violence or very like dark themes. This one might not be for you, but if you were willing to take a risk, we suggest it.
Yeah, and also just prepare for the twists because the twists are insane. So they work as twists like separately, but taking them together, it's again just a very bleak job that this guy has, and the things that he has to deal with. It's insane. So loved it, and I'm gonna move on to another movie that I loved.
Yeah. So Joel, why is this kid leaning on Pete? What is he crushing him? Like, what is the point of leaning on this damn horse? Like, what is his deal with horses?
I despise you and everything you stand for. Okay, so I'm just kidding. I love that. Good. All right, so my next movie is Lean on Pete. This is the new film from director Andrew Hay, who previously directed 45 Years, one of the very, very, very best films of 2015. And this one is about a kid named Charlie, played by Charlie Plummer, who has a very troubled home life. His mother abandoned the family when he, like, very, very young. His dad's a heavy drinker and dates around, and so it's just kind of a bleak existence, very much on the edge of poverty. And one day he's running or riding his bike or something down a road, and he notices that there's a lot of horse racing going on, and so he hops in there, interested because he just finds it really exciting, and so he goes in there and he takes on a job as an assistant to a horse trainer played by Steve Buscemi, who is training this particular horse named Lean on Pete, who is an older racehorse. He's about 5, which is pretty up there for racehorses. And he just kind of bonds with this horse, and it's a good thing that he does because everything else in his life seems to go wrong at this particular moment. So there's an element of the story here that I've been struggling with whether or not to tell people because it actually happens well about an hour into the movie. But I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to tell people that if you're mad, just tell us. I won't do this again, and I do know how to do this. This is very difficult, so I'll just say this. He loses his father. The father is involved in a fight that perforates his intestines and causes sepsis. And so, yes, he loses his father, and that's not the only emotional connection that he loses in this movie. This is again a very an oppressively bleak movie. I think it was Screen Junkies, the Honest Trailers folks, who were doing this Honest Trailer thing about the Best Picture nominees of 2016, and they called Manchester by the Sea a slow, depressing train to Sadsville or something like that, and that's very much what this movie is in that vein. Because what we get is a portrait of economic and familial kind of struggle. And yes, it ends up, being an excuse for him to go across the U.S. to try to find his aunt. And So he brings along the horse, and there are many adventures along the way. Not like wacky adventures, but very sobering adventures. He comes across a homeless man played by Steve Zahn. He comes across a couple of Army vets, one of whom is played by Bill Pullman's son, Lewis Pullman. Pretty interesting seeing him. And it's just one of those little slices of life where the boy learns something from the animal that he's gotten attached to, and it's extremely sad, but it doesn't wallow in that sadness. And at the center of it is what is probably going to be, at the end of the year, one of the best performances given this year, and that's from Charlie Plummer, who is fresh off of All the Money in the World. He was the kidnap victim in that one, the youngest Getty. And here he comes back with looking younger for some reason. I think he might have shot this before that movie. But he's great here. I think that our good friend Mark Dusick put it a really good way, and I keep coming back to this phrase. He engenders instant empathy for this character through his performance. And it's just one of those great young people performances. He's not a kid. I think he's like 18 or something. And he's playing a 16-year-old here, and he completely sells that. Very much on the cusp of manhood, but not quite there, emotionally or in terms of his maturing. But he has a lot on his mind. He's a kid who has to reflect a lot. He's had to grow up before he technically has had to grow up, if that makes sense. He's had to grow up before his time. And this movie shows a lot of process that further, he has to grow up a lot over the course of this movie. And so he's great in this role. It's also got some really good supporting actors. Steve Zahn comes in for about 5 minutes in a really terrifying role that I didn't expect him to play. And then Steve Buscemi is probably going to end up on my best supporting actor list for this. He's great as the gruff, kind of sarcastic, but absolutely, father-like horse trainer who takes to this kid. He's constantly annoyed by him, but he takes to him and he shows him the ropes, and he enjoys doing that because he finally gets to teach somebody something. You get the feeling that he's kind of been on his own for a while, and now he has this kid, and it's great for him to be able to have this sort of outlet of teaching somebody something that he's probably had all of this information in his head for a while. He's now letting it out, and it's just great. It's a great role for him. Completely. I mean, sometimes you get that idiosyncratic Steve Buscemi performance where he uses, because he has that, upper register kind of nasally voice, and sometimes he'll use that in the performance as an idiosyncratic kind of quirk. But here he doesn't. I mean, it's totally naturalistic, completely, in tune with the naturalistic backdrop of this movie, which is incredibly. It almost seems like this could have taken place in the movie Boyhood or something. Very naturalistic, based on the performances. The camera work is very quiet but serene, beautiful. Really captures. I think it was actually shot in these parts of the U.S., and it really seems like that. Very idyllic, and Chloe Sevigny plays the jockey of the horse, of a jockey who works for the Steve Buscemi character, and she is phenomenal here. It's not a huge role, but it's a great performance from her. And then you have Travis Fimmel, who plays his dad. He's this kind of high wire act in a human form, and it's really like oddball performance that he nails. Like that a lot. And it's just a great movie. It has a series of twists, again, not really twists, I guess, but kind of jarring events that place the characters in tough circumstances, but without feeling like it's just piling on. for the purposes of melodrama. This is not a melodramatic movie. It's incredibly naturalistic. It's a tale of a boy and his pet, but it's not just about that. It's about family. It's about economic struggling. It's about desperation, and it's just a terrific movie. There are a few conveniences that kind of annoyed me. I can't really name them without going into spoilers, but there are some situations where he gets out of them via kind of loud shouting matches, and that's really where the movie embraces the melodramatic material that kind of exists at the edge of the story that the rest of the movie doesn't barter in. But that's the only reason I'm not giving this an A. It's an A-, and it's a strong A-. It's gonna be one that I rewatch near the end of the year, even though I'm probably gonna cry a lot all the time. It's a very sad movie, and it's a great one for the early part of the year. So if you're looking for just a break from the mainstream, you got two options here. You got or you could just take both of them. But you were never really here. Great movie. Lean on Pete. Great movie. So A- for Lean on Pete. I can't wait for you to see it, Chase. I know that you are at some point because it's A24, and as as A24 is your master, I know that you will do its bidding. So
it's true.
Yeah.
I have very weird idols. I idol A24 and Jason Blum. So there you go. But you know what? Even if I don't catch it in the middle of the year, you know that we're going to get the A24 package at the end of the year, and it's going to be in there. So
they will definitely push this for many things. I can imagine that they'll try to push this for screenplay. Because I think that every word of this movie was written. I believe that this is. I've heard rumors that there are moments here where it seems like casual conversation, but Andrew Hay has such a as we saw in 45 Years, such a great eye for naturalism that pretty much everything was written, and all the actors delivered it with such, again, naturalism. I just keep coming back to that word, that it feels almost documentary-like. In a way that is not through the camera work, but through just the way the actors play the dialogue is just
that's how 45 Years felt almost.
Yes, yeah, it did. It was incredibly. It was very subtle, very nuanced, very quiet, but it was a thrill to see. Great filmmaking, and so yeah, I can't wait for you to get that whenever you can to see it, and. Yeah, so I can imagine it working well on a small screen too. I know that sometimes people feel like that's a knock, but it's not. It's not for me. Some movies can work on both ends. It looks beautiful, but I can't wait for you to see it wherever you can. So great movies, and now I'm definitely gonna be talking about those in our next thing. So we had some box office news to talk about. Now, I'm going to have to do something real fast.
Just to, I guess, throw this out there. Joel's going to ask me, Chase, what are the top 5? And I'm going to throw a couple curveballs in there, but I actually think I've got this. I haven't looked at any of the numbers or anything, but I think I have a good roundabout of where the top 5's going.
So here are your hints. So there were 3 wide releases this week. Okay. I Feel Pretty, which I know you saw and weren't super fond of. Super Troopers 2. Did you see that yet? I don't think you did.
No, but you know that I'm hyped out of my mind to see it, so I will watch it as fast as I can.
And then Traffic, which was one that had no real significant marketing, but it has Paula Patton, and it's about human trafficking. And it's I've heard it's pretty awful. So those are your 3, and I will just say that they are in the top 10. They could be in the top 5. So take a guess, sir.
All right, this is what I got. You guys ready for this? It's going to be 100%, and whatever Joel says is fake news. All right. 100%, it is going to be. You guys ready for this? Number 1, A Quiet Place. Number 2, I Feel Pretty. Number 3, Truth or Dare. Number 4, Blockers. And number 5, Super Troopers 2.
You were completely wrong.
Well, you know what? I tried, folks. You know, it is what it is sometimes. You know, there's no reason to make fun of me. You know, it's just I tried my hardest. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, Joe.
Okay. So
what is it?
Blockers is not in the top 5 anymore.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
I figured it would have held in there.
Yeah, it dipped down to number 7. It made made $7 million this week, for a total of 48.3 million. Domestically and worldwide, it's at 67.8, so it's on a $21 million budget.
Oh my god, I completely forgot about Rampage. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm such an idiot. You know what? It happens, folks. It happens. Good lord.
Yeah, so then number 5 is going to be Truth or Dare.
Okay.
Which made 7.9 million on a budget of 30.4.
30.4 cents?
No, I'm sorry. For a total of 30.4. I switched my senses here. And then a worldwide gross of 38.3, and it's on a $3.5 million budget. So
3.5 cents?
3
Oh, okay, 3.5 cents. Got it.
3.5 mites.
I have a feeling that Jason Blum just pulled out a nickel, threw it at the set, and was like, "Here's your budget." And they're like, "We can make it work, fam. We can make it work."
We'll just report it as 3.5 million. Number 4 is Super Troopers 2 with 14.7 million.
That's way more than I thought I would get, by the way.
Yeah.
Way more.
With a budget of 13.5, which was all crowdfunded. Yep. So that's pretty significant. It hasn't opened overseas yet, but 14.7, pretty good. They've already made the baseline budget back. So
it's going to do very well on streaming.
Yeah.
Just like the first one did.
Pretty much. Number 3 is I Feel Pretty with 16.2 million. And a worldwide, it's not worldwide yet. So it's got a $32 million budget. So I don't know. I guess that's okay. It's only half of the budget, but whatever. That's another one that's going to do well on streaming.
And folks, just real quick, if you're wondering how I felt about the movie, let's put it to you this way. I love Trainwreck. I hated Snatched. I Feel Pretty's in the middle.
Okay.
Let's just say it's in the middle somewhere of those two.
I didn't see it. I'll see it on Blu-ray. Number two is Rampage, which has 21 million this week. It's got a total of 66.6 million. So it's evil. Okay. It's got a worldwide total of 283 on a $120 million budget.
That's not bad.
So yeah, that's not bad at all. I don't think it was great, but it's not a great movie, but that's a pretty good total. So glad people made their money back on this one, because it's already broken even and it's headed to make its money back from P&A. So yep. I feel like that's probably maybe 300, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe a little more than that.
The thing with Warner Brothers is that they're very rampant with their costs, and especially with Justice League, it's like they love just throwing money out everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rampage's marketing is almost equal to its production budget. I could be wrong, but Warner Brothers is very frivolous with their money.
That's true. That's a good point. Number 1 is indeed Traffic. I'm just kidding.
Oh my god.
It's A Quiet Place. It's got 22 million this week, so that's close. People were either just seeing Quiet Place or Rampage. So it's a domestic total of 132.4 million.
Good lord.
Yeah, a worldwide total of 207.2 with a $17 million budget. So yeah, Paramount did a good job with this one.
They finally have a hit on their hands.
Yeah, no, insane. This is going to be the one this is going to be their year. This is going to be their movie this year. In terms of the big hit, that's pretty much it. So that or Mission Impossible.
Oh, that too.
So yeah, that's the top 5. Traffic opened at number 9 with 3.9 million. It doesn't have a listed budget, but whatever. It's probably not very much. Let's see. Anything else? Oh yeah, so the two movies. You Were Never Really Here doesn't seem to be on the chart.
Yeah, that's what's weird. I was looking at it and I was like, are they missing it? What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's made $676,000. So
Which
that's
is actually quite shocking because my theater, I went at like 7 p.m. on a Thursday. It was like half full. I was surprised there was that many people there.
yeah, it's weird. That's how it was for me with Lean on Pete. There were a bunch of people in the theater, and then they all clapped at the end. So, yay for good theater experiences.
Right?
But yeah, so it's made 676,000, but I don't know. Oh, it's number 29. No, it's not. Oh no, that's what it opened as. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. I guess it just kind of isn't on the
Wait, Joel, it was never really there. It was all in our head. It was an imagination. We never saw it.
Chase, you're fired.
No way. My puns are legendary, my friend.
Lean on Pete rose from number 34 to number 26, made 177,000 this weekend, for a total of 347,000. It's probably got a budget of like $10, so it's pretty good. Good on A24. They have a bunch of movies on the chart right now, I think. Do they? Wait, one? Oh no, they don't. But anyway, so that's pretty much it. We don't really have huge drops or rises. I guess Lean on Pete's rise was 129.9%. It's pretty significant. The Rider rose 87 or 85.7%. Can't wait to see that, man. You got to tell me how that is when you see it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't see any big drops that are significant. Nope, that's pretty much it. Got one of those Indian releases, Bharat Ane Nenu, which made 2.9 million. That always seems to happen.
Don't ever underestimate Bollywood, folks. They know how to annihilate numbers in the States over here. Like, every time when one of those movies comes out, it's always like in the top 10 or near the top 10. It's insane.
Yeah. It's like that movie Padmavat.
Yeah.
Huge hit. I want to see that. I've heard that that's a pretty great movie. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. That's the box office. There's no real huge news, outside of the top 10, top 5, whatever. So that's going to be it.
Yeah.
Next week we have a review of
Kings.
Of Kings
and the Rider.
Of Kings and the Rider.
Yes.
Nothing else is coming out. It's just a completely quiet weekend. We're kidding. It's Avengers Infinity War. We can't wait. I've been revisiting, Marvel and getting pumped up for this. I think it's going to be a huge event. So I'm excited. I'm again seeing it Thursday night, and then I'm going to sleep on it, and then I'm going to write my review on Friday morning. So I'm not going to be one of those people who writes the review into the middle of the night and then wastes the next day sleeping in. So y'all can just expect my review about around noon probably on Friday. Of that one, and then we'll convene then, and then of course the next 2 weeks got the summer preview and diff. So big exciting times coming up.
Yeah, this channel and this podcast will definitely be busy the next 3 weeks. But yeah, of course we're gonna do Infinity War. Did you think we were gonna do anything else? Come on, listen. This is my Star Wars. This is my event movie. This is the one I will shed a tear for, and people will make fun of me. I don't care. I'm going to sit there and be like, you know what? This was 10 years. 10 years leading up into this point, and it happened. And so I can't wait to see it twice, actually, before we review it. So I'll have like a clear review for you guys, whether I like it or not. Because there is that possibility. I hope it's not true, but there is a possibility of complete suckage, but we will find out. But that will be next week on episode 228. But this was 227, and a great way to end each show is to plug where you can find our extra stuff. Joel, where can the lovely people find your extra reviews?
You can find most of my writing, all of my writing, at joelonfilm.com. And you can find some of it at Dallas Movie Screenings. I didn't have any for them this week, but I should this next week. So, yeah, I'm there. You can follow me on Twitter at RealJoelCopling, and on Letterboxd at JCopling. More people need to join Letterboxd. It's awesome. And, yeah, so that's pretty much where I am.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Real Chase Lee. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get other reviews like I Feel Pretty and how I really felt about that. It was whatever. And of course, I got a couple of other ones coming out. The Rider, I got Kings that will be on my channel, so go check that out. And of course, the podcast here, iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spreaker, it's all there. Spread it around, folks. Let people know this is the Definitive Movie Podcast, son. This is where you get all your info and your movie tidbit and reviews. And so we will see you guys next week for probably one of the biggest event movies in our lifetime. That is not a hyperbole. It will be one of the biggest in our living existence, and that would be Avengers Infinity War. Excited for that. For sure. So we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Real Me and Cole, the Movie Podcast. That is Joel over there. I am Chase. If you are new and you stuck around, hopefully we convinced you to join our film fan community and just be a movie lover. We would love you all. You guys are all badass. Peace out, everyone. Next week, it's Infinity War, son. It's here. And we out, fam.